New police powers to protect communities from disruption caused by protests. Hi, my name is Lindsay Brown. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Okay, guys, so the UK government have put out this statement, I guess, on the 5th of October. Police forces will be authorised to consider the, I can nearly say the word, cumulative impact of protests, assessing previous activity when deciding to impose limits on protesters. Okay, so this cumulative impact, what they mean by that, this is all my opinions for a start, but what they mean by that is they'll be able to go back on other protests, which they are, from what I am aware of, recording faces at that in some instances, and they'll be able to go back and look at what's happened in that particular protest, and as far as I'm aware, they'll be able to make arrests, and they'll say, is a protest happening in this area all the time, causing distress or alarm or whatever it may be, right? So they'll be able to go back and cumulatively collect all that information and go, right, okay, you can't have a protest there anymore because it's upsetting, or somebody has wee hurt feelings or whatever, okay? But I want to read through this because I think they're trying to use and trying to twist it to pretend that they're trying to protect the Jewish community whenever really it's a new policy that will be put in place to stop us going out and protesting about what's happening to our country, right? So they go on to say, and this is on the UK government website, guys. You can all maybe see it. Maybe a lot of you already read it, but I just wanted to talk about it. Police forces will be granted new powers to put conditions on repeat protests as the Home Secretary orders a fresh new look at how protests are policed and organised. The new powers, which will be brought forward as soon as possible, will allow senior officers to consider the cumulative impact of previous protest activity. So like I say, guys, they are, whenever I've been at protests or demos or whatever you want to call them here in Northern Ireland, we do see that they have the big paddy wagons or Range Rovers, whatever you want to call them, Land Rovers, sorry, not Range Rovers, meat wagons, paddy wagons, that kind of thing. You can see on top of one of them they have a big massive camera, and the camera is recording. Now, they have so much technology nowadays that they'll be able to pick up these faces and they'll get that facial recognition and stuff like that. Now, and any of the ones I've been at, nobody's been doing actually anything wrong, okay? So there's no need to hide, and this is not me suggesting people go out and hide their faces, but we just need to know that this is what they're doing and that they will use this past information that they're picking up in the future if they feel that they need to. But, sometimes they feel that they need to do things that we wouldn't all agree with, right? So if a protest has taken place at the same site for weeks on end and caused repeated disorder, the police will have the authority to, for example, instruct organisers to hold the event somewhere else. Anyone who breaches these conditions will risk arrest and prosecution. The Home Secretary will also review existing legislation to ensure that powers are sufficient and being consistently applied. This includes powers to ban protests outright, and will also include provisions in the Crime and Policing Bill, which is currently going through Parliament. So I believe this is the start of it all, guys, where they're wanting to ban these protests completely, because they don't want you to have a view, they don't want you to have an opinion, right? They don't want us to see what they're actually doing to our country and want to speak up and do something about it. If they could just shut us all down, then they could continue to destroy our country, and that would make life easier for them, right? But we're not going to make life easier for them. We're going to do things right, and we're going to continue to fight for our country. Now, I think that's so funny. Home Secretary, and I don't know if I'm going to say her name right, Shabima Mahood, said the following. Now, I absolutely think that it is crazy that we have a Home Secretary who's actually, from what I have seen, I'm near 100% sure I've seen videos of her at these pro-Palestinian demos, right? But now she wants to come down hard. And it just, she's from the Muslim community, and There's Christians being killed all over the world at the minute. Well, not all over the world, but in plenty of countries, there's thousands of Christians being killed at the minute. But yet here in Great Britain and Northern Ireland, a Christian country, by Muslims, by the way, and here in Northern Ireland, in a Christian country, we have a Muslim as a Home Secretary. That really does not make sense to me at all. And I think a lot of other patriots would feel the same. So she has said, the right to protest is a fundamental freedom in our country. However, the freedom must be balanced with the freedom of their neighbours to live their lives without fear. Large repeated protests can leave sections of our country, particularly religious communities, feeling unsafe, intimidated and scared to leave their homes. Well, I know a lot of mothers and fathers that are scared to let their children out at the minute, so this is happening whether the protests are there or not. This is happening because of the influx of men with different values into our country, that our own people are scared to let their teenage kids out and have the fun life that we had when we were teenagers. And I've spoke to loads of people and they have told me that they felt safer in the Troubles in their own areas, and I would totally agree with that. This has been particularly evident in relation to the considerable fear within the Jewish community, which has been expressed to me on many occasions in these recent difficult days. These changes mark an important step in ensuring we protect the right to protest while all ensuring feel safe in this country. Now, I think they are using what happened in Manchester Synagogue as an excuse, right? So it's this whole, they pretend that they're sticking up for the Jewish community, but really what they want is for the so-called far right, to stop protesting about what's happening to the country. So they can sneak these wee rules and regulations or legislation or whatever terminology they like to use for it. They can sneak these in and pretend, oh, look at us, we're protecting the Jewish company, whenever really they've got a completely different agenda to what they're doing. And I believe that's what she's doing here. The government will make improvements by amending sections 12 and 14 of the Public Order Act 1986 to explicitly allow the police to take account of the cumulative impact of frequent protests on local areas in order to impose conditions on public processions and assemblies. Now, look, that would be all well and good if we actually trusted what they were doing, if we actually trusted the police. Now, a lot of the police I have seen at the demos here in Northern Ireland, they have been friendly, they have been nice, okay? But we understand that they're taking orders from above. So unfortunately, and especially in Northern Ireland, on both sides of the community, that trust with the police, that needs to be built back up. And at the minute, we don't fully have that. So we wouldn't really trust that they would bring in the right, let me see what word she used here. The right, when the police are out doing, the government allow the police to take account of the cumulative, okay, so that's going to allow the police more control, I guess, over these protests. Well, that would be alright if we actually trusted them, okay? Now, like I say, I've met some really nice ones, but overall, from where the orders are coming from, we don't have that trust, and I believe that trust relationship with the public and the police service needs built up. The government will make improvements. Oh, sorry about that. Further details will be set out in due course, so they haven't actually given us all the details just yet. Policing Minister Sarah Jones visited Lambert Police Headquarters yesterday to see the Metropolitan's response to yesterday's protest, where about 500 were arrested. Most of these arrests were made for supporting the prescribed group Palestine Action. So again, I believe that they are using that particular incident to put this legislation in to then eventually come down on the patriots, right? That's what I believe. Amal, in my opinion, that's what I believe. I would imagine, I'd love to hear your comments, I'd imagine a lot of you would agree. The Home Secretary will also write to the Chief Constables, thanking them for their swift and professional response following Thursday's terrible attack at the protests across the country. She will encourage them to use full range of powers available to them to prevent and respond to public disorder. Again, I would not be at a protest where there is violence going on. I do not agree with that. I'm not suggesting anybody should be violent at these demos. But I do believe that they are using this as an excuse to put these new rules and regulations in. Following a terrorist attack in Manchester, the Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government, Steve Reid, has written to the local authorities, encouraged them to use their existing resources and powers to ensure Jewish communities are protected in the coming days and weeks, including limiting protest activity as much as possible. So again, guys, I believe that they are using this attack to their advantage to shut us all up. All police forces in England and Wales are working with the Community Security Trust to ensure and offer additional support to the 553 different synagogues and Jewish community sites across the country. Today's announcement builds on measures already in the Crime and Policing Bill going through Parliament to support the policing protest. Banning the procession of fireworks, flares and other pyrotechnics, at protests, criminalising the climbing of specific war memorials, making it clear that such disrespectful behaviour is unacceptable, banning the use of face coverings to conceal a person's identity at protests designed by the police. So again, it's I personally, from what I've seen, these face coverings only really come from the pro-Palestinian demos. I don't really see a lot of them at the demos that I would be attending. So yeah, I think this is all made to sound, oh, look at us, we're standing up for the Jewish community, you know, we're getting on top of these Palestine Action ones, but I think it's all a smokescreen to like, oh, look, aren't we doing great? And then they'll be able to shut the rest of us down who actually are just fighting for what we think's right. And when I say fighting, I mean standing up and having a voice, right, for what we believe is right. So guys, we just need to all make sure we're keeping an eye on this kind of stuff. This is the UK, right? So United Kingdom, which involves Northern Ireland. I am not 100% sure exactly, if I'm honest, how that all works when these rules go in England. Does that mean they're Wales as well, and Scotland and Northern Ireland? But I would imagine that that would be their goal anyway, is to make sure that it's all over the United Kingdom. So let me know your views, and definitely keep your eye out whenever you're at these demos, guys. Be careful, behave yourself. Let's do this peacefully. Let's do this the right way, as we have been doing. But we need to continue to stand up for our country and the safety of our women and children, and also the culture for our future generations. Thank you all so much.